Hello everyone, and welcome to my Soap Twist 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The morning light poured through Sheila Carter's living room's half-open curtains, creating thin golden lines across the cream carpet. She perched on the edge of her cream leather sofa, knees squeezed together, fists clasped so tightly that her knuckles became white. Across from her, Dr. Lee Finnegan folded the lab report with meticulous care, as if the paper itself would bruise if handled forcefully. "I'm sorry, Sheila," Lee whispered softly, her words landing like stones in silent water. "The biopsy confirms this." Sheila did not move, didn't blink. For several long seconds, the only sounds were the gentle ticking of the wall clock and the distant buzz of traffic on the Pacific Coast Highway. Then she let out a tiny, piercing laugh, more of a bark than anything amusing. "Pancreatic," she murmured, savoring the term. Of course, that would be it. They call him the silent murder. How appropriate. Lee's expression remained steady and professional. "We caught it rather early for this variety. There are therapeutic options available, including surgery, chemotherapy, and radiation. It's aggressive, but you're strong." Sheila's gaze shifted to the framed portrait on the side table, which depicted her and Finn during his medical school graduation. He was beaming the soft, hopeful smile he received from his father, and she stood behind him, proud and little possessive. She leaned out and touched the glass with her fingertip. "Does Finn know?" she inquired. "Not yet. I wanted to tell you first." "You're my patient," Sheila said, giving another short, dry laugh. "How considerate. How long do I have if I do nothing?" Lee paused. "Months. Perhaps less than 1 year. But, Sheila, doing nothing isn't." "I'm not doing nothing," she interrupted. She stood abruptly and smoothed her silk blouse with rapid, precise movements. "I just need a moment to process," Lee said as she rose and collected her suitcase. "I've arranged an oncology consultation for tomorrow morning at Cedars-Sinai. I will send the information to your phone. Please don't miss it." Sheila took her to the door with no further words. When it closed behind Lee, the apartment felt unusually big and quiet. She stood in the entryway for several minutes, staring at her own reflection in the little mirror over the console table. The face that stared back at her was still stunning: sharp cheekbones, dark eyes, lips that could curve into a deadly smile or a convincing apology. But now she noticed something else: the small shadows behind her eyes and the slight hollowing of her cheekbones, which she had attributed to stress. Cancer. The word circled in her thoughts like a shark. She went to the kitchen, opened the wine refrigerator, and took out a chilled bottle of Sauvignon Blanc. Her fingers shook slightly as she poured a full glass. She took one sip, then another, then carried the glass to the window and gazed out at the ocean, glistening in the late morning sun. For decades, she had faced each struggle head-on. She had fought her way out from prison, rejection, being shot, and being presumed dead. She had manipulated, seduced, threatened, and even killed when she felt it was necessary. She had always been the predator, not the prey. Until now. Her phone vibrated on the counter. Finn's name illuminated the screen. She glanced at it for 3 rings before responding. "Mother?" His voice was warm and concerned. "I just received a bizarre SMS from Dr. Finnegan stating that she saw you this morning. Is everything okay?" Sheila closed her eyes. She could envision him. White coat slightly rumpled, stethoscope slung around his neck, most likely standing in a hospital corridor between patients. "Everything's fine," she said calmly. "It's just a standard checkup. Are you sure Lee likes to fuss? You sound off." "I'm fine, Finn." "Really?" She tried to lighten her tone. "How is work?" "Saving lives as usual," he laughed softly. "Trying." "Hi, Steffi and I were thinking about having a small family meal this weekend. The kids miss their grandmother. Are you in?" The word grandma struck her like a slap. She gulped hard. "I will let you know. I may have something." "Mother, I have to leave, dear. Someone is at the door." She ended the call before he could argue. The glass trembled in her grip. She laid it down carefully, scared of dropping it. She hadn't told any lies when she said she was all right. Not really. Because a part of her, the cold, calculating part that had kept her alive for so long, was already planning. She would fight this like she fought everything else, viciously and without apology. But another part, smaller and quieter, the part that recalled how it felt to be loved by her son, was scared. She spent the afternoon investigating. Hours passed as she perused medical journals, patient forums, and survival statistics. Pancreatic cancer had a 5-year survival rate of 13% overall. Stage 3 reduced that even further. She learned the names of the top oncologists in Los Angeles, the most promising clinical studies, and the experimental cures that were whispered about in the deepest recesses of the internet. By evening, she had a notebook full of bullet points and a plan in mind. She would not go quietly. She would not allow the sickness to take away her dignity or power. If she had to die, and the odds were not in her favor, she would do so on her own terms. The next morning, she arrived at Cedars-Sinai 20 minutes early, dressed in a sleek black pantsuit with impeccable hair and makeup. She looked like a woman attending a board meeting, not a cancer consultation. Dr. Elena Marquez, the oncologist, was younger than Sheila had anticipated, late 30s, dark locks twisted into a tidy bun, piercing eyes behind rimless glasses. She evaluated the scans and lab results calmly and efficiently. "We're looking at a combination approach," she explained. "If the tumor is resectable, perform a Whipple surgery followed by 6 months of FOLFIRINOX treatment. It's exhausting, but it provides you the best chance. We've had patients overcome this." Sheila leant forward. "What if it isn't resectable? Then we proceed to chemotherapy and radiation. There are also immunotherapy trials that you may be eligible for. But I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Pancreatic cancer is difficult. We fight hard, but we must be realistic." Sheila nodded slowly. "I have never been accused of being unrealistic, doctor. Tell me the true odds." Dr. Marquez returned her look. "With treatment, stage 3 pancreatic, perhaps 18 to 24 months if everything goes smoothly. Without, 6 to 12. Sheila absorbed the data in the same manner she would a stock report. Coldly. Methodically. "I want the surgery," she explained. "Whatever it takes to get that tumor out. We'll schedule additional imaging to determine resectability. In the meanwhile, I'd like to get you started with some pre-op diet and pain management." Sheila declined the pain medicine offer. "I'm not in pain." Dr. Marquez took a moment to examine her. "You will be. Soon." "It's fine to admit that," Sheila responded. "I'll admit it when I feel it." When she left the hospital, the sky had become a faint gray, indicating impending rain. She stood on the sidewalk for several minutes, allowing the wind to tug at her hair. She then pulled out her phone and dialed a number she hadn't used in months. "Deacon," she said when he responded. "I need to see you. It's significant." Deacon Sharp met her in a secluded cafe in Malibu, away from prying eyes. He was older than she remembered, more creases around his eyes, more gray at the temples, but still gorgeous in that rough-edged way she'd always liked. He slid into the booth across from her. "Sheila, you look like hell. What's happening?" She examined him for a bit, looking for the appropriate words. For once, manipulation did not feel like the solution. "I have cancer," she explained plainly. "Pancreatic. Stage 3. Deacon's face relaxed. "Jesus. I'll start treatment next week. Surgery if they can perform it. Chemo anyway." He stretched across the table, paused, and took her hand. His palm was heated and calloused. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I don't trust anyone else not to use this against me." She slowly drew her hand back. "And I might need someone to lean on. Just a little." Deacon's gaze met hers. "You're not going to ask me to do anything unlawful, right?" She gave a faint, exhausted smile. "Not yet." He breathed. "Okay. I'm in. Whatever you need." She wasn't expecting the relief that rushed over her. For the first time since Lee's arrival, she felt less lonely. The next few weeks were a flurry of appointments, blood draws, and scans. The tumor was borderline resectable, so the surgical team decided to go for it. Sheila spent the night before surgery alone in her apartment, composing letters to Finn, Steffi, and Deacon that she didn't mean to send. She apologized to them, not for who she was, but for the grief she knew she would create. She awoke early on the morning of the Whipple procedure and dressed carefully. Finn gave her a black silk shirt, charcoal slacks, and pearl earrings years ago. She glanced in the mirror and said, "You've survived worse." Deacon took her to the hospital. He didn't say anything, simply kept one hand on the wheel and the other next to hers. When they got to the surgery waiting area, he squeezed her shoulder. "You'll be fine," he said. She gazed at him. "If I'm not around, please look after my son. He'll pretend he's fine, but he won't be." Deacon agreed. "I promise." They wheeled her away. The last thing she saw before the anesthesia kicked in was Deacon standing at the edge of the curtain, watching her go. She awoke in recovery 16 hours later, throat raw and body aching like she'd never felt before. A nurse leaned over her. Everything went as well as predicted. They got the majority of the tumor. Sheila closed her eyes. Not a cure, not even close, but a beginning. The recovery was terrible. Pain, nausea, and tiredness had settled into her bones. Chemotherapy began 3 weeks later, with 6-hour infusions that left her frail and trembling. She lost weight, hair, and the sharp edges to her appearance that had previously served as her armor. Finn found out, of course. Lee could not keep the secret forever. He arrived at her flat one evening with takeout containers and a distressed countenance. "Why haven't you told me?" he asked, his voice breaking. "Because I didn't want you to look at me the way you're looking at me now," she told me. He sat next to her on the couch, shoulders hunched. "I am your son. I am intended to be there." She stretched out and caressed his cheek. "You're here. That's enough." Steffi eventually arrived. She remained at the doorway for a long time, arms folded and eyes wary. Then she came up and hugged Sheila, briefly and firmly. "We're not okay," Steffi muttered to her shoulder. "But we are family. And I will not let you do this alone." Sheila closed her eyes and let herself to be held. Months have passed. Chemo cycles blended together. Some days she struggled to get out of bed. Others she forced herself to go along the beach, breathing salt air and assuring herself she was still alive. The cancer did not go. It shrank and then grew again. Scans revealed additional spots on her liver. The doctors used careful, measured language to discuss quality of life and palliative options. Sheila listened, nodded, and continued to battle. She sat on her balcony with Deacon one evening as the sun began to set over the water. He had brought wine for himself and ginger ale for her. They didn't talk for a long time. "I used to think dying would be the worst thing that could happen to me," she stated at length. "Now I am not so sure." Deacon looked at her and said, "It's harder than I expected to live this way. You're still yourself. You're still the toughest person I know." She chuckled softly. "Tough doesn't stop the pain." "No," he acknowledged, "but it keeps you here. Keeps you fighting." She diverted her gaze to the sunset. The sun made her skin golden, concealing the pallor beneath. "I'm tired, Deacon. I know, but I'm not ready to stop." He grabbed for her hand. This time, she let him to hold it. "Then we keep going," he said. "One day at a time." She nodded, her gaze fixed on the horizon. The cancer continued to develop inside her. The resolve to life remained strong within her. And somewhere between those two facts, Sheila Carter, mother, manipulator, survivor, found herself still breathing, hoping, and unwilling to give up. The waves rolled in steadily and endlessly. She watched them till the sky turned black, the first stars appeared, and the night enveloped her like a promise she wasn't sure she could keep. But she would try. She constantly tried. When Sheila's abrupt sickness takes an unexpected turn, everyone is taken aback. What starts out as a few unsettling symptoms swiftly turns into a life-changing diagnosis that sends shockwaves through Los Angeles and completely upends Sheila's meticulously controlled environment. Sheila has always appeared impenetrable, known for her cunning machinations, steely resolve, and remarkable ability to endure in the face of overwhelming circumstances. But this time, fate strikes a blow that she cannot deflect, intimidate, or outmaneuver. At first, Sheila ignores the warning indications. She dismisses recurrent weariness, dizziness, and unexplained discomfort as stress, aging, or the aftereffects of her turbulent history. Sheila has survived prison, bullet wounds, and several enemies. A little discomfort does not faze her. Nonetheless, individuals close to her become aware that something is wrong. Her complexion pales, her keen eyes lose part of their luster, and her trademark confidence begins to shatter in subtle, unexpected ways. Deacon is the first to realize that something is severely wrong. He notices Sheila becoming aloof, inattentive, and abnormally vulnerable. When he insists she see a doctor, she lashes out, accusing him of attempting to control her. Fear, not fury, motivates her reaction. Sheila has spent her entire life avoiding consequences, and the thought that her own body might betray her scares her more than any enemy has. Eventually, the symptoms become impossible to ignore. A terrifying incident sends Sheila into the hospital, where physicians begin a battery of testing. The stress is intense as she paces around the clean room like a trapped animal, waiting for answers. For once, she isn't planning her next move or manipulating the circumstance. She is just terrified. The diagnosis is devastating. Cancer. The word rings in her ears, robbing her of breath and control. Sheila, the lady who has terrified families and wreaked havoc for decades, sits motionless as the doctor describes treatment options, phases, and outcomes. It feels strange. This is not a courtroom or a jail cell. There is no enemy to combat, no strategy to implement. Simply a sickness that does not care who she is or what she has done. News of Sheila's diagnosis spreads swiftly, and reactions are anything from straightforward. Some are stunned, others are conflicted, and some privately believe that karma is finally catching up with her. Finn is particularly shaken. Regardless of what Sheila has done, she is still his biological mother, and the possibility of losing her hits him harder than he ever imagined. Years of hatred, anger, and unresolved trauma combine with guilt and sadness to leave Finn emotionally broken. Steffi, on the other hand, is dealing with her own conflicting emotions. Sheila has brought nothing but sorrow and danger into her life, so celebrating such tragic news feels strange. She strives to assist Finn while keeping herself and her family safe from being drawn back into Sheila's sphere. The diagnosis leads Steffi to face an unsettling truth. Even monsters can suffer. Deacon finds himself in the most impossible situation of all. His difficult relationship with Sheila grows stronger as he becomes one of her main sources of support. For the first time, Sheila lets someone see her weakness without turning it into a weapon. Their scenes are visceral, emotional, and genuinely unnerving, with Sheila alternating between fear, denial, wrath, and sad tenderness. Sheila occasionally spirals, thinking whether this is punishment for her previous transgressions. She lashes out at doctors, resists treatment, and even considers leaving it all. If she must die, she does not want to do so while being hooked up to machines and stripped of her dignity and sovereignty. Deacon begs her to fight, reminding her that this may be her moment for redemption, to prove she is capable of choosing life over destruction. Meanwhile, murmurs spread among the Forrester and Logan families. Some regard Sheila's return as an opportunity to manipulate her way back into their life. Others question if this diagnosis will actually change her. Ridge is doubtful, believing that Sheila will use the illness to get sympathy and forgiveness that she does not deserve. Brooke is caught between compassion and caution, acutely aware of how dangerous Sheila can be, even at her most vulnerable. As treatment begins, Sheila's physical metamorphosis reflects her emotional disintegration. The lady who once thrived on control now relies on others to survive. Chemotherapy is severe, leaving her fatigued, frail, and unrecognizable. Everyone, even Sheila, finds it disconcerting to see her power pulled away. In quiet moments, she dwells on the lives she has damaged and the children she has harmed, troubled by the thought that she will run out of time to make things right. Finn ultimately pays her a visit, and their experience is awful. Years of rage and unresolved questions flow out, but so do tears. Sheila, hardly able to sit up, reveals she is terrified, not of dying, but of dying alone and unloved. She doesn't ask for forgiveness explicitly, but her anguish is clear. Finn leaves feeling disturbed, unsure whether to open his heart or shield himself from yet another round of emotional anguish. The diagnosis also causes fractures in existing relationships. Deacon's devotion to Sheila puts him at conflict with Hope, who believes he is being drawn into another hazardous spiral. Hope struggles to reconcile the man she loves with the woman who has caused her family so much pain. Sheila's condition causes everyone around her to face hard truths about empathy, boundaries, and the cost of kindness. Sheila's prognosis continues to be unknown as the weeks pass. Doctors caution that the journey ahead will be lengthy and uncertain. There are moments of promise, followed by crushing disappointments. Sheila holds onto minor victories, a favorable test result, a day without pain, as if they were lifelines. However, the issue remains. Is this disease actually changing her, or is it merely displaying a new type of survival instinct? In moments of lucidity, Sheila expresses regret in unexpectedly heartfelt ways. She expresses her desire for Finn to remember her as more than a villain, as well as her regret for not making alternative decisions when she still had time. But old habits die hard. Even in the hospital, she uses circumstances to her advantage, reminding everyone that Sheila Carter is still very much alive. The emotional impact of the diagnosis continues to spread, forcing long-standing foes to confront compassion they never thought to feel. Some folks begin to recognize Sheila as more than simply a threat. She is a terribly broken lady facing the ultimate consequence of death. Others refuse to let down their guard, thinking that sympathy is precisely what she seeks. As the story progresses, the stakes become higher. Will Sheila survive the sickness, altered, and really remorseful? Or will this diagnosis be her most potent deception yet, the last card in a lifetime of schemes? The uncertainty keeps everyone on edge, obscuring the distinction between redemption and deception. One thing is certain: Sheila's cancer diagnosis will change everything. It humanizes a figure traditionally associated with chaos and savagery, while simultaneously reminding audiences that even the most dangerous people are susceptible to vulnerability. Love, fear, rage, and forgiveness collide as the clock ticks faster with each episode. It is unclear whether this is the beginning of Sheila's redemption or the most devastating chapter in her story. But as she faces the struggle of her life, one reality becomes clear: Sheila Carter, for the first time, cannot avoid what is coming.